The intelligence revolution born from failure. The FBI had identified two of the 9/11 hijackers, Khalid al-Midhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, as suspected terrorists in August 2001, but failed to locate them before they boarded American Airlines Flight 77. The CIA had tracked these men since a January 2000 Al-Qaeda meeting in Malaysia, but never shared this information with domestic law enforcement agencies. Immigration records showed al-Midhar had entered the United States multiple times using his real name, while al-Hazmi lived openly in San Diego for nearly 2 years. The two agencies operated under legal restrictions that prevented intelligence sharing, creating blind spots that the hijackers exploited perfectly. Internal investigations revealed that at least 12 different opportunities existed to disrupt the 9/11 plot if information had been shared properly between agencies. The CIA knew about the Malaysia meeting, the FBI had reports about suspicious flight training, the NSA had intercepted communications mentioning an upcoming attack, and immigration officials had flagged visa irregularities. Each agency possessed pieces of the puzzle, but none could see the complete picture. This compartmentalization, originally designed to protect sources and methods, had become a fatal weakness that allowed 19 men to coordinate the deadliest terrorist attack in American history. Congress responded by creating the Department of Homeland Security in November 2002, consolidating 22 federal agencies with 180,000 employees under a single cabinet-level department. The Transportation Security Administration absorbed airport security from private contractors. The Coast Guard moved from the Department of Transportation, the Secret Service transferred from Treasury, and Immigration and Naturalization split into separate enforcement and services bureaus. FEMA, which had operated independently since 1979, became part of the new department along with the Federal Protective Service, Customs Service, and Border Patrol. This massive reorganization directly impacted the bin Laden manhunt by creating new information-sharing mechanisms between agencies that had previously operated in isolation. The Terrorist Screening Database, launched in 2003, combined watch lists from the FBI, CIA, State Department, and other agencies into a single system accessible to airport security, border agents, and local police. For the first time, a suspicious financial transaction flagged by Treasury analysts could immediately alert CIA operatives tracking the same individual overseas. The creation of fusion centers in major cities allowed federal agencies to share intelligence with state and local law enforcement in real time. These centers proved crucial in tracking potential bin Laden associates who might seek medical treatment, send money transfers, or make contact with family members in the United States. When Pakistani intelligence provided tips about suspicious individuals, federal agents could now coordinate with local police departments to conduct surveillance or make arrests within hours rather than weeks. The USA Patriot Act, passed just 6 weeks after September 11th, expanded surveillance authorities that became essential tools in the bin Laden hunt. Section 215 allowed the FBI to obtain business records from telecommunications companies, banks, and internet service providers without showing probable cause of criminal activity. This authority enabled investigators to map the financial networks that supported Al-Qaeda operations and identify previously unknown associates of bin Laden's inner circle. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act received significant amendments that allowed intelligence agencies to monitor electronic communications between the United States and foreign countries with reduced judicial oversight. These expanded powers proved particularly valuable when tracking couriers and financial operatives who maintained contact with bin Laden's hideout. Previously, each international phone call or email required individual court approval, creating delays that often rendered intelligence worthless in fast-moving operations. National security letters became a powerful tool for gathering information about suspected terrorists without alerting targets to ongoing investigations. FBI agents could now compel banks, phone companies, and internet providers to turn over customer records simply by asserting the information was relevant to national security. Between 2003 and 2011, the FBI issued more than 192,000 national security letters, many related to tracking bin Laden's network and identifying potential threats to homeland security. The CIA and NSA began unprecedented cooperation after decades of bureaucratic rivalry and legal restrictions. The two agencies established joint task forces focused specifically on high-value targets like bin Laden, sharing personnel, resources, and intelligence in ways that would have been impossible before September 11th. CIA operatives gained access to NSA's global communications intercepts, while NSA analysts received CIA human intelligence reports that provided context for electronic surveillance. This collaboration proved essential when tracking Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, bin Laden's primary courier. NSA intercepts identified suspicious communication patterns, while CIA sources provided details about al-Kuwaiti's role in the Al-Qaeda network. The agencies worked together to monitor his movements across Pakistan, eventually leading to the Abbottabad compound. Without the post-9/11 intelligence reforms, this level of coordination would have been legally and bureaucratically impossible. The failure at Tora Bora in December 2001 exposed critical weaknesses in special operations planning and intelligence coordination. Requests to seal escape routes with U.S. troops were denied, leaving tribal proxies who sometimes switched sides when paid. Afghan warlords were paid to block exits, but lack of enforcement let bin Laden slip away. The Tora Bora outcome led to the creation of JSOC joint task forces and new Special Operations Authority. Enhanced interrogation techniques applied to captured Al-Qaeda operatives provided controversial but significant intelligence about bin Laden's courier network. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the 9/11 mastermind captured in 2003, revealed details about Al-Qaeda's communication methods under harsh questioning. Abu Faraj al-Libi, arrested in 2005, provided information about courier identities that proved crucial in later tracking efforts. While these techniques remain legally and ethically disputed, they contributed intelligence that helped identify key figures in bin Laden's support network. The institutional changes implemented after September 11th created an intelligence apparatus specifically designed to track elusive targets like bin Laden across international boundaries. Information that once took weeks to share between agencies now moved in real time through secure networks. Local police officers had access to terrorist watch lists, while CIA operatives could request immediate surveillance of suspicious individuals anywhere in the United States. However, bin Laden recognized that American intelligence capabilities had evolved dramatically after September 11th. He stopped using satellite phones, avoided electronic communications, and relied entirely on trusted couriers for messages. Understanding his transformation from wealthy Saudi businessman to the world's most hunted fugitive would prove essential in predicting where and how he might hide. The making of the world's most wanted man bin Laden came from a wealthy construction family in Saudi Arabia, which funded early operations. His father Mohammed bin Laden had built a construction empire worth billions through exclusive contracts with the Saudi royal family, and when Osama inherited approximately $25 million after his father's death in 1967, he gained access to far more than money. The family business maintained offices across the Middle East with established relationships among government officials, military contractors, and religious institutions throughout the region. These connections would prove invaluable when he later needed to move money, purchase weapons, and recruit fighters. He adopted radical jihadist ideas in his 20s and used family wealth to finance mujahideen in Afghanistan. When Soviet forces invaded Afghanistan in December 1979, bin Laden saw an opportunity to transform his beliefs into action. He arrived in Pakistan in 1980, initially working to establish the Maktab al-Khidmat, which recruited Arab volunteers to fight alongside Afghan mujahideen. His construction expertise became his greatest asset as he built training camps, weapons storage facilities, and mountain hideouts for Arab fighters. His engineers carved elaborate cave complexes into the mountains near the Pakistani border, creating fortified positions that could withstand Soviet bombing campaigns. The Soviet-Afghan War taught bin Laden crucial lessons about asymmetric warfare that he would later apply against American forces. He learned how small groups of dedicated fighters could defeat a technologically superior enemy through patience, mobility, and knowledge of local terrain. He observed how effective propaganda could inspire international support and recruit new fighters. Most importantly, he discovered that targeting enemy morale and economic resources could be more effective than direct military confrontation. The Mujahideen victory over the Soviet Union convinced him that similar tactics could succeed against other superpowers. His relationship with the Saudi royal family deteriorated after Iraq invaded Kuwait in August 1990. When King Fahd invited American troops to defend Saudi Arabia, bin Laden offered to mobilize his Arab-Afghan veterans instead. He argued that stationing non-Muslim forces near Islam's holiest sites violated religious law and would provoke widespread anger throughout the Muslim world. The royal family rejected his proposal and accepted American military protection, a decision that bin Laden viewed as betrayal of Islamic principles. His public criticism of this policy led to government surveillance and eventual exile. Saudi authorities stripped bin Laden of his citizenship in 1994 after he continued attacking government policies from his base in Sudan. The royal family also froze his access to family business accounts and pressured other wealthy Saudis to stop funding his activities. This financial pressure forced him to become more creative about raising money through criminal enterprises, charitable front organizations, and sympathetic businessmen across the Middle East. His exile from Saudi Arabia transformed him from a domestic critic into an international terrorist leader with nothing left to lose. Sudan provided bin Laden with a perfect environment to build Al-Qaeda's international network between 1991 and 1996. The government welcomed him as a wealthy investor who could help develop the country's infrastructure. Bin Laden established legitimate businesses including construction companies, agricultural farms, and import-export operations that generated profits while providing cover for terrorist activities. His construction company built roads and airports that improved his ability to move fighters and weapons throughout the region. His agricultural operations in eastern Sudan became training camps where recruits learned bomb-making, weapons handling, and operational security. During his Sudan years, bin Laden began recruiting operatives from across the Muslim world and establishing cells in multiple countries. He sent representatives to establish operations in Somalia, Yemen, Kenya, Tanzania, and other strategic locations. His network provided weapons and training to local insurgent groups while identifying potential targets for future attacks. The 1993 World Trade Center bombing, carried out by associates trained in his camps, demonstrated Al-Qaeda's ability to strike inside the United States. International pressure forced Sudan to expel bin Laden in May 1996, leading to his fateful decision to return to Afghanistan. The Taliban leadership, grateful for his financial support during their rise to power, provided him with protection in exchange for continued funding and military assistance. Bin Laden established new training camps in remote provinces and began planning more ambitious attacks against American interests worldwide. His agreement with Taliban leader Mullah Omar created a terrorist sanctuary that would shelter him for the next 5 years. The 1998 embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania marked bin Laden's emergence as America's primary terrorist threat. His operatives spent months conducting surveillance of both targets, identifying security weaknesses and planning coordinated truck bomb attacks. The simultaneous explosions killed 224 people and wounded more than 4,000 others, demonstrating Al-Qaeda's capability to execute complex international operations. These bombings prompted the first serious American efforts to capture or kill bin Laden. The USS Cole attack in October 2000 served as the final rehearsal for September 11th. Bin Laden's operatives spent nearly 2 years preparing this operation, establishing a safe house in Aden, purchasing a small boat, and testing various explosive devices. The suicide bombing killed 17 American sailors and nearly sank a billion-dollar warship, proving that Al-Qaeda could strike military targets despite heavy security. Bin Laden's media strategy transformed him into a global symbol of anti-American resistance. His carefully staged video messages, distributed through Al Jazeera and other outlets, portrayed him as a warrior poet defending Islam against Western aggression. He wore simple white robes and spoke in classical Arabic, projecting an image of religious authority that appealed to Muslims worldwide. His ability to evade capture despite massive manhunts enhanced his legendary status and inspired countless followers to join his cause. This detailed understanding of bin Laden's background, motivations, and operational methods would prove essential when intelligence analysts later tried to predict his behavior in hiding. His preference for remote, mountainous terrain reflected his Afghan war experience. His reliance on trusted associates from his early radical days explained his courier networks. His engineering expertise in building fortified cave complexes would soon be tested when American forces finally cornered him in Afghanistan's most forbidding terrain. The December 2001 operation at Tora Bora would become the most consequential missed opportunity in the entire manhunt. On December 3, 2001, American intelligence intercepted radio communications indicating that Osama bin Laden was trapped inside the Tora Bora cave complex in eastern Afghanistan, approximately 35 miles southwest of Jalalabad near the Pakistani border. Delta Force operators and British Special Air Service troops had tracked Al-Qaeda fighters to this remote mountain fortress after weeks of pursuit across Afghanistan's rugged terrain. For the first time since September 11th, American forces had their primary target cornered in a confined area with limited escape routes. The Tora Bora region consists of a series of steep ridges and deep valleys rising from 8,000 to 14,000 feet above sea level, creating natural fortifications that had protected fighters for centuries. The White Mountains contained hundreds of caves and tunnels carved into solid rock by geological forces and human engineering. Snow covers the peaks for most of the year, while the valleys below freeze solid during winter months. Bin Laden had spent considerable time and money fortifying this area during the 1980s war against Soviet forces, expanding natural caves into an elaborate underground complex capable of sheltering hundreds of fighters. American military planners faced a crucial decision about how to assault this mountain fortress. General Tommy Franks, commanding Operation Enduring Freedom, chose to rely primarily on Afghan militia forces rather than committing large numbers of American ground troops. The Pentagon provided these local commanders with cash payments, weapons, and close air support, but Afghan fighters would conduct the actual ground assault. This strategy aimed to minimize American casualties while leveraging local knowledge of the terrain, but it placed the success of the operation in the hands of unreliable allies. Declassified military documents reveal intense debates among American commanders about troop deployment during the Tora Bora operation. Colonel John Mulholland, leading Special Forces operations in Afghanistan, requested 800 Army Rangers to block escape routes into Pakistan. General Franks rejected this request, citing logistical challenges and political concerns about large-scale American ground operations. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld supported Franks' decision, believing that Afghan forces would be more effective in mountain warfare. CIA operatives on the ground strongly disagreed with this approach. Gary Berntsen, the CIA field commander at Tora Bora, repeatedly requested additional American troops to seal the border with Pakistan. His team had identified at least 6 major trails that bin Laden could use to escape, but Afghan militia forces lacked the discipline and motivation to maintain effective roadblocks. Berntsen's reports to CIA headquarters described Afghan commanders as unreliable partners who might switch sides if offered sufficient bribes by fleeing Al-Qaeda fighters. The bombing campaign that began on December 4, 2001, featured persistent airstrikes by B-52s and AC-130 gunships targeting suspected cave positions. Each B 52 carried massive payloads of ordnance, including bunker-busting bombs designed to penetrate deep underground fortifications. A US C-130 delivered a 15,000-pound Blue 82 Daisy Cutter, marking a rare usage of this massive conventional weapon. The continuous bombardment created avalanches that sealed some cave entrances, but failed to eliminate the primary targets hiding in the deepest sections of the complex. The bombing proved less effective than expected because the cave system extended much deeper into the mountains than intelligence reports indicated. Many tunnels connected to natural caverns that provided protection from even the largest bombs. Al-Qaeda fighters had learned from Soviet bombing campaigns during the 1980s and constructed their shelters to withstand sustained aerial attacks. They moved constantly between different cave sections, using the underground network to avoid detection while maintaining communication through radio systems. Complex tribal politics and paid proxies left gaps for bin Laden's escape with no new troops to seal the border. Afghan militia commanders accepted payments from both American forces and fleeing Al-Qaeda fighters, creating conflicting loyalties that undermined the entire operation. Hazrat Ali, one of the primary Afghan commanders, received millions in cash from the CIA, but also negotiated separate deals with Al-Qaeda leaders seeking safe passage to Pakistan. Different militia groups had fought each other for years over control of lucrative smuggling routes, and some commanders viewed the operation as an opportunity to eliminate rivals rather than capture terrorists. Pakistan's failure to secure its side of the border proved decisive in bin Laden's escape. Despite promises to President Bush, Pakistani military forces made no serious effort to establish roadblocks or patrol the remote mountain passes leading from Tora Bora. The federally administered tribal areas operated under traditional tribal law rather than central government control, making effective border security nearly impossible. Local tribal leaders, many with long-standing relationships to Al-Qaeda fighters, provided guides and safe houses for fleeing terrorists. Pakistani intelligence services maintained complex relationships with various Islamic militant groups that created additional obstacles to border security. The Inter-Services Intelligence Agency had supported the Taliban during their rise to power and maintained contacts with Al-Qaeda associates even after September 11th. Some ISI officers viewed American military operations in Afghanistan as temporary interventions that would eventually end, making cooperation with radical groups a long-term strategic necessity. The Tora Bora failure fundamentally changed how American forces approached subsequent high-value target operations. Future missions would rely primarily on American Special Operations Forces rather than local proxies. Intelligence gathering would focus more heavily on escape routes and potential safe havens. Coordination with foreign governments would require specific commitments rather than general promises of cooperation. By mid-December 2001, intercepted communications from the Tora Bora region had gone silent. The world's most wanted man had vanished without a trace, beginning a period that would test every assumption American intelligence agencies held about tracking elusive targets across international boundaries. The ghost years in Pakistan. Intelligence agencies found themselves hunting a target who had mastered the art of invisibility. After vanishing from Tora Bora in mid-December 2001, Osama bin Laden entered what intelligence analysts now call his ghost years, a period from 2002 to 2005 when his whereabouts remained completely unknown to American authorities. The CIA received no reliable intelligence about his location during this time, while Pakistani officials claimed they had no knowledge of his presence in their territory. Satellite surveillance, electronic intercepts, and human intelligence networks all failed to produce actionable leads about the world's most wanted man. He had effectively disappeared into Pakistan's vast tribal regions, protected by a network of supporters who kept his location secret for years. False reports of bin Laden's death circulated regularly during this period, creating confusion within intelligence agencies and providing cover for his continued survival. Funeral ceremony rumors emerged repeatedly, with Pakistani sources claiming he had died of kidney failure in remote tribal areas. CNN and other major news outlets published these reports before intelligence agencies could verify their accuracy. Similar death rumors emerged in 2003, 2004, and 2005, each citing different causes ranging from bombing injuries to natural illness. These false reports served bin Laden's interests by reducing the intensity of search efforts and allowing him to move more freely. A 2002 Al Jazeera video confirmed he was alive months after September 11th. His propaganda videos, released sporadically through Al Jazeera and other media outlets, provided the only confirmed evidence of his survival during the ghost years. These recordings showed a noticeably aged bin Laden speaking about current events, proving he remained alive and engaged with global affairs. Intelligence analysts studied each video frame by frame, analyzing background details, lighting conditions, and audio quality for clues about his location. The videos were clearly produced in controlled indoor environments rather than cave complexes, suggesting he had found more comfortable accommodations than expected. Bin Laden most likely spent his first years in hiding, moving between safe houses in Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas, particularly in North and South Waziristan. These mountainous regions along the Afghan border operated under traditional tribal law rather than Pakistani government control, making them ideal sanctuaries for fugitives. Local Pashtun tribes had provided shelter to Afghan Mujahideen fighters during the Soviet War and maintained sympathetic attitudes toward Al-Qaeda leadership. The terrain consisted of steep valleys and remote villages accessible only by narrow mountain paths, allowing small groups to move undetected. The network protecting bin Laden during this period included veteran Arab fighters from the Afghan War, Pakistani tribal leaders, and sympathetic elements within Pakistan's intelligence services. These supporters provided safe houses, transportation, communications equipment, and medical care while maintaining strict operational security. Bin Laden traveled with a small entourage that included his wives, children, and most trusted bodyguards. The group moved frequently between different locations, never staying in one place for more than a few weeks to avoid detection by American surveillance efforts. ISI warned bin Laden was deceased but continued to harbor him, leaving CIA to hunt him across Pakistan. President Pervez Musharraf publicly supported American counter-terrorism operations while privately allowing Pakistani intelligence to maintain relationships with militant groups. This dual policy created confusion within Pakistan's security apparatus and provided cover for officers who chose to protect Al-Qaeda leaders. American officials repeatedly pressed Musharraf for more aggressive action against terrorist safe havens, but Pakistani military operations in the tribal areas remained limited and often ineffective. These political constraints allowed bin Laden's network to operate with relative impunity during his early years in hiding. Bin Laden likely lived in several different locations during the ghost years, adapting his security measures based on changing threat levels and local conditions. Intelligence reports suggest he spent time in the Courier agency near the Afghan border, where his Arab fighters had established training camps during the 1980s. He may have also hidden in remote areas of Balochistan province, where vast desert regions and sparse population provided natural concealment. Some reports place him in urban areas like Peshawar or Quetta, where he could blend into large populations of Afghan refugees and religious students. The security measures bin Laden adopted during this period reflected lessons learned from years of evading capture. He stopped using any form of electronic communication, including satellite phones, radios, and internet connections that could be intercepted by American surveillance systems. All messages were carried by trusted couriers who traveled circuitous routes and used coded language to disguise their contents. He changed his appearance by dyeing his beard and wearing different styles of clothing to avoid recognition. His movements followed no predictable patterns, and he avoided locations where he might encounter Pakistani security forces or American operatives. American and Pakistani cooperation in searching for bin Laden produced several near misses during the ghost years that came tantalizingly close to success. In March 2004, Pakistani forces surrounded a compound in South Waziristan based on intelligence suggesting bin Laden's presence, but the target turned out to be Ayman al-Zawahiri's deputy instead. A similar operation in 2005 targeted a house in Bajur Agency where bin Laden had allegedly been spotted, but the building was empty when troops arrived. These failures highlighted the challenges of operating in remote terrain with unreliable local intelligence. Declassified CIA documents reveal that American intelligence agencies tracked dozens of false leads during this period, each requiring significant resources to investigate and verify. Reports came from Pakistani informants seeking reward money, rival tribal leaders attempting to eliminate enemies, and well-meaning civilians who mistook other Arab men for bin Laden. The CIA spent millions of dollars following these leads, conducting surveillance operations and organizing raids that ultimately proved fruitless. Each false alarm made Pakistani officials more skeptical of American intelligence and less willing to authorize future operations. Bin Laden's extreme paranoia about American surveillance capabilities inadvertently provided intelligence agencies with valuable insights into his operational methods and psychological profile. His refusal to use electronic communications confirmed that he remained actively engaged in leading Al-Qaeda operations despite his isolation. His reliance on courier networks revealed the importance of tracking his most trusted associates from the Afghan war period. His apparent need to remain in contact with his family suggested he would not venture far from Pakistan's main population centers for extended periods. By late 2004, the constant movement and security pressures were taking their toll on bin Laden and his family. The stress of perpetual relocation, combined with his desire to provide stability for his wives and children, would soon force him to make a decision that prioritized comfort over operational security. The Abbottabad compound construction. In late 2004, bin Laden made the fateful decision to establish a permanent base of operations. After 3 years of constant movement through Pakistan's tribal regions, he instructed his most trusted courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, to find a location where they could build a secure compound. This choice represented a fundamental shift in bin Laden's security strategy, trading the mobility that had kept him safe since escaping Tora Bora for the comfort and operational advantages of a fixed location. Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti began searching for suitable properties in early 2005, focusing on areas within driving distance of Islamabad but far enough from the capital to avoid government scrutiny. Abbottabad, a hill station 60 miles northeast of Islamabad, offered the perfect combination of accessibility and anonymity. The city served as home to Pakistan's premier military academy and hosted a large population of retired military officials, creating an environment where security-conscious residents would not attract unusual attention. Al-Kuwaiti posed as a successful businessman looking for investment property, allowing him to examine multiple locations without raising suspicions. The land purchase transaction in late 2005 raised several red flags that local authorities failed to investigate at the time. Al-Kuwaiti paid around $48,000 for 3 adjoining lots, a sum worth considerably more in today's currency when adjusted for inflation and local economic conditions. This represented an unusually high price for undeveloped property in a middle-class neighborhood, particularly given that most residents earned modest government salaries. The seller, a local landowner named Shah Khan, later told investigators that Al-Kuwaiti carried the money in large denomination bills and completed the entire transaction within a single afternoon meeting. Construction began immediately after the land purchase, with Al-Kuwaiti hiring local contractors and laborers who had no knowledge of the project's true purpose. The workers understood they were building a large family compound for a wealthy businessman who valued privacy and security. Muhammad Bashir, the primary contractor, later recalled that Al-Kuwaiti insisted on specific design features that seemed unusual for a residential property. The 2-meter walls topped with razor wire puzzled local architect who questioned why a family residence required such extreme security measures. The compound's construction revealed security features that protected the inhabitants while simultaneously creating the distinctive characteristics that would eventually attract satellite surveillance.